Good evening and welcome to Empower You. I'm Betty Overstreet, the Executive Director. I think we have some people in the audience tonight that's never been here before, am I right? First time here? Our voice of Empower You is here tonight, Don Hurd. We'd like to have him come up and lead us in the pledge and the national anthem.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Don. For those of you that have never been here before, I'll just tell you a few things that you may not be aware of. Most of our classes are live streamed. So if ever you want to see a class and you can't get here, you can log on to our website about 10 minutes, 5 minutes ahead of time and watch it online. And also, if you're new to our organization, please pick up one of our calendars off the table in the back when you leave, and you can see what kind of classes we had this semester. We've been in operation since 2010. This is our 18th semester that we're finishing. Our last class will be on December 17th. It's going to be Christmas Memories. A local gal by the name of Dolores Ray will be here. She will be singing Doris Day and Rosemary Clooney songs, and some of their stories will be told as well. This particular program is through the Museum Center, and at Christmas time it's very popular, and they don't have any open dates. I booked this date with her last spring, but she also gave us a special date. This isn't one of the dates they normally do a production, so they're doing it just for us. I hope you'll come. She's really good. Will be a real enjoyable time and a good way to end up our 18th semester. Also, we do like to have your comments. We will be having our board meeting in January, putting together new ideas for next semester. If you have any ideas you'd like to pass on to us, just go to info@empoweruohio.org. You can leave your suggestions there. We also like your comments, good ones, bad ones, improvement ones, whatever you think we need to hear. We welcome that. Also, our speaker tonight's going to be taking questions at 2 different times. He's going to be kind of halfway through. We're going to take some questions, and then again at the end. So when you have a question, when those times come up, please raise your hand and wait for myself or someone to bring a microphone to you so that everyone here in the audience, as well as the people online, can hear your question. And also, since we are a free university that operates on donations only, towards the end of our class, we always pass around our little red buckets. If you feel like you'd like to give something to help us keep doing what we do, we appreciate any amount that you might give. And now I think I'm ready to have, by the way, Dan Reginald is the founder of Empower You, who's also the founder of Frame USA here. So he's the one that you can give the praise to for what we do. We're ready for our door prize. Get your tickets out.
Let's have our speaker. And don't throw your tickets away. You never know what might happen. And this is for our guest book, Summer's Almost Gone. So the number is 468. 468. Are you the winner? Congratulations. And your name is?
Carolyn.
Carolyn, congratulations. So gosh, almost the end of our 18th semester. I hope you're thinking about coming to our Christmas gala event on the 17th. It should be lots of fun. I just have a few kind of things I wanted to close up for you tonight. Jay, could you start that PowerPoint? So keep your tickets out. I've got one. We had a little session about the debt a couple weeks ago, and we talked about 4 different ways that the debt problem could be fixed. And at the end, we voted on which idea everybody liked. And the 4 choices were sequestration, increased taxes, the penny plan, which is something from Rand Paul, or the Convention of the States. The penny plan from Rand Paul, which means it's not really a penny plan, it's a 2-penny plan. You take 2 pennies out of every 100 spent, and in 5 years you balance the budget. It's such a complicated system. That was by far the winner, so I wanted to share that with you, and we're gonna draw one more winner because I've got a big prize to give away, and that winner is number 472. 472, so I've got a roll of pennies for you. And also a La Rosa's gift card. So that was the penny plan. You know, right before I walked out the door today, I saw something that bothered me. It was from Curtis Fuller, but a lot of people were talking about it. Just after 4 years, Ohio Power Siting Board decision, Duke Energy can construct Central Corridor pipeline in Hamilton County. 13-mile route will pass through Amberley Village, Blue Ash, Cincinnati, Evendale, Gulf Manor, Reading, and Sharonville. I lived in Evendale about 18 or 19 years, have a lot of friends there. I know there's a lot of people who have come to a lot of Empower You events that worked awful hard to get that stopped. And it's discouraging. It's discouraging to work hard on something, but imagine how you'd at least feel if you didn't work hard on it at all. So I really commend all of the people that got up, and all the signs I saw throughout all the communities, people like Mr. Janis in the back trying to stop it. And it's just kind of a tough loss, but I wanted to share that with you. One other thing I kind of wanted to talk to you about that I talked to you about earlier in the semester was the situation with FC Cincinnati and the property taxes in Hamilton County that they're not going to have to pay. And I think I told you that I had sent a public records request to find out how many millions of dollars of property taxes that FC Cincinnati wasn't going to have to pay, which would mean everybody in Hamilton County like me would be paying more. And that was about a month ago I sent that, and quote unquote, we're having trouble getting this to you promptly. And when they finally called me today, they said, here's the information about FC Cincinnati. This is handled by a group called the Port of Cincinnati, which is a quasi-governmental agency, part run by the city, part run by the county. And my question to them was simple. Could you tell me the value of the property tax abatement for FC Cincinnati Stadium being built? The Port Cincinnati is the group in charge. Their answer was, we do not know the amount of property tax that is being foregone. So that led me to my next question. So when this whole thing came before you, was that a factor in the consideration? We didn't even think about it. In the person's name who called me, an attorney for the port, no one anywhere knows what that number is. Although the abatement has been approved, the dollar figures was never considered. The property is still being assembled. And under Ohio Authority 4582, the port is allowed to abate any property they want that they don't want to have to pay property tax on. So when you're reading about things like this Millennium Hotel that's being bought, how many people live in Hamilton County? Congratulations, you all own it. When you're reading about that, that's one more piece of property that this port is involved with that they will say they don't have to pay property taxes on, which means all of our property taxes will just go up that much higher. It's something I think you really need to think about, keep on the front burner. The funny thing is, this port, they've approved a payment to the Cincinnati public school system. So they're going to pay the school district down there X number of dollars. They're going to say, we're not paying property taxes, but we're going to pay you. I don't know what the figure is. That figure was in the paper. But their feeling is the property doesn't have any value there now. Building the stadium drives all the values in the area up, which will increase property taxes down in that area where the stadium is. I said, well, what about all the apartment buildings that are being taken over by FC Cincinnati that are paying taxes? They just said those taxes won't be paid anymore. My question in this whole thing, who's representing the loss to the taxpayers, which is us? Just something, not a very Thanksgiving thing to think about, but something I think you should all be aware of when these property taxes in Hamilton County just keep going up and up and up and up. Somebody needs to be on our side. A couple other things quickly. I kind of selfishly put one of these on each of your chairs. This is an initiative I've been involved with for the last 10 years. It's called Fill the Truck. We just try to fill a semi-truck with personal care items. Last year we filled 2. We had about 51,000 items. There were 15 businesses involved. If you're coming to the Christmas gala, bring a couple cans of food for us, or you could take this and you can donate as much as $1 to help us. We're trying to support 7 great charities in Cincinnati. So on to the main event. It's great to see our guest here tonight. Everybody loves to see JT Townsend come and talk. And he cornered me at the Racket Club a couple weeks ago and just told me how great tonight was going to be. And I couldn't wait to see it. So JT is a freelance writer, armchair detective, and lifelong resident of Cincinnati. He's the author of the 2009 regional true crime bestseller Queen City Gothic, and 2014's Queen City Notorious. His work has appeared in the Enquirer, Cincinnati Magazine, Word Magazine, Crime Traveler, and Clues. He has presented over 300 programs in the Cincinnati area as part of his true crime lecture series, including Jack the Ripper, Lizzie Borden, the Lindbergh kidnapping, and the Lincoln assassination. Let's welcome our guest tonight, JT Townsend, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for coming.
All righty. Thank you, Dan. Okay, good group tonight. Shameless plug from me. I do have copies of my latest book, Summer's Almost Gone, back there. When I spoke on this last year, I didn't have any hardcovers. Now I do. Selling hardcovers signed for $15 tonight. That's crazy. If you got somebody on your Christmas list and you already have it, you can hit me up tonight. It caught me in a weak moment. I really enjoyed that rendition of the Star Spangled Banner, sir. That is not an easy song to sing. I know that. When you hit that high note, I mean, seriously, so well done. We're going to have to change the subject here, though. We're going to talk about the greatest murder case in United States history. I think the only other thing you could compare it to would be the Lincoln assassination. But this is the one that everybody remembers. I'm going to warn you right now, this is going to be a bit of a controversial presentation. We are going to cover the known facts, and then we're going to solve this thing. And I have a feeling, I don't know. I'm not sure how it's going to set with people when I say it was J. Edgar Hoover from the grassy knoll wearing a dress. Okay, we can all go home. I'm sure everybody here, or most of you, remember kind of what you were doing. I've got an Assassination Day story. I told my mom I didn't feel good and I stayed home from school. So I wasn't in class when everybody heard. My mom and I were watching a soap opera. So I probably knew before any kids because they just broke right in. And then my mom, being how she was that night, she said, well, there's nothing good on TV. So she took me and my brother and sister to the movies. There's nothing good on TV. It was all assassination coverage. Somebody in my class saw me at the movie. Hey, you weren't in school today. And they told my teacher Monday. So that was a bit embarrassing, but it's my own little, and I did see Lee Harvey Oswald shot by Jack Ruby. My father and I were watching it. I'm just like, well, Dad, what? They just shot a man on live TV. I mean, just a crazy weekend, indelibly imprinted in everybody's mind. So let's see what we can find out about this. Let's review the known facts. I don't think anybody can dispute anything in the first part of this program, and I have to remember not to walk too much. I'm a bit of a stroller, so I'll see what I can do about that. Okay. There we go. Well, it's December 22nd in Dallas. Why is JFK even in Dallas? His approval ratings are probably at the lowest point of his term. Obviously, after his death, he became an instant martyr, but he wasn't real popular at this time. And this whole trip to Dallas, along with LBJ, had been planned to solidify his southern base of Democrats. I think his poll numbers are probably the reason he was there. We've got a beautiful sunny day, and they're going to do a motorcade through Dallas. And this motorcade route was set on Monday of that week, and it first appeared in the newspaper on Tuesday. So this is not a route that's been planned for a long period of time, this 10-mile motorcade route. Most residents didn't learn the actual route till Tuesday or Wednesday. Keep that in mind. About 12:30, the motorcade turns right here in front of the book depository building, and the crowd starts thinning out, but some people in this area start noticing something very interesting. There's a man in this window. Oh, hold on. I got to get my hands right here. There's a man in this window, and he appears to be holding a gun. A man said to his wife, look, honey, there's a Secret Service agent. This guy had dark hair, appeared to be wearing a white t-shirt, a white man, rather pale with dark hair, holding a rifle at port arms. At least 4 people saw this man in the window. And again, as I said, one man said, oh, Secret Service agent. So they turn, the motorcade turns. And look at this picture very closely. Most experts believe the first shot has been fired, and it's a clean miss. Look at Jackie. Look at Conley. Some people appear to have reacted to this noise, and some people haven't. But whatever, wherever this shot went, it did not strike anyone in the limousine. It did hit a pavement, and a piece of concrete kicked up and struck a man in the face under the triple underpass. But I think it's interesting that you do see what appears to be some initial reaction here of the first shot. Now, the second shot has been fired. If you look closely, JFK has his hands up to his throat. He has been shot through the back, and the bullet has exited his throat. You can see Jackie's white-gloved hand. She's trying to assist him. He's doing a classic maneuver with a spinal cord injury. He's got both hands up like this. Look at the Secret Service guys. Turning to the back. People seem to be reacting to something from the back here. Let's go a little bit farther, maybe a second later. Kind of a blurry photograph. As you can see, the crowd is getting very sparse here. But look at here. Here is Abraham Zapruder and his secretary. He is taking the most famous home movie in United States history. And thank God he was taking this movie, or we don't know near what we know about this crime. This is the most 16 seconds of a home movie. This is absolutely the most stunning piece of evidence, but his secretary is holding on to him. He's an elderly man, and they're up here on this thing, and she doesn't want him to fall. Here in the limo, people are starting to react here. there's something wrong in the limo and people know it at this point. But again, notice a rather thin crowd here. They had just come out of a crowded area and suddenly there's a pocket of like no people. Here are frames from the Zapruder film. We see Kennedy reacting to his throat wound, and look at Connolly. John Connolly is also reacting as if he has been shot. They've been shot by the same bullet. Most people felt they heard 3 shots. We'll have to examine this, but as you can see, they are both reacting. Connolly is in obvious distress. Jackie is leaning down to comfort Jack. Folks, I hate to say it, that's frame 312. 1/18th of a second later, the bullet strikes. You can't see it, I guarantee you, the fatal bullet is somewhere right there if it's not already in his head. Kind of a graphic image coming up here. This is the third and final shot, the fatal headshot. I don't know what more you can say about the horror of this, but we do know this, is a Zapruder film was not shown publicly till 1967. Unless you were down there in Dealey Plaza, you had no idea of the devastation of this wound to his head. And this is indeed devastating, as you can see from this next frame. That's what's left of that side of his head. Look at Jackie. She was right next to him. Any other human being who would sustain this kind of head wound would be pronounced dead on arrival at any hospital. He's the President of the United States. They take him to Parkland. He officially doesn't die for another 30 minutes. And I know for a fact the heart is a stubborn organ. Your brain could be destroyed. Everything else is dead. Your heart will stubbornly beat. But seriously, folks, no one realized at the time just how devastating this head wound was. And there you kind of see it. Look at this photograph. This is the 6th floor window of the book depository. This was taken 5 seconds after the final shot was fired. There's 3 workmen at the book depository here. All 3 of these men heard 3 shots above them. One of the men heard the shells hit the floor above his head. A man on the street, one of the original 4 that saw the rifleman in the window, actually saw the shots being fired and the rifle being drawn in. And it was his description of the shooter that was broadcast, 5'10", white male, brown hair, very pale skin. These are very key witnesses. These are workers in the depository. And according to them, 3 shots came from here and 3 shells hit the floor. But guess what's going on though? Mass confusion on Dealey Plaza. We've got crazy acoustics along here. Everything's down in a valley and people are running up the grassy knoll. It appears that some shots could have come from behind this picket fence here. As you can see, people are reacting and running to that area. And this is going to be a bone of contention right up until today. You know, where were the shots coming from? Were they coming from more than one location? How many shots were there? Well, they go into the Texas School Book Depository. A cop enters that building within a minute of the shots. This policeman felt the shots had come from there. And when they investigate the 6th floor, they find a sniper's nest. They find a shooter's nest here. There are 3 shells on the floor. A rifle is found stuffed behind some boxes farther away, like over here. So it appears that at least one of the shooters was indeed in this sniper's nest in the book depository. And I have to pause when I say depository because I saw Full Metal Jacket about a week ago and they said book suppository. That movie. My wife says, don't say suppository. I just have to kind of watch that. So we've got some clear evidence of a shooter in this window within minutes of the shooting. You know, they found all this within 10 minutes. The next incident, 45 minutes after JFK is shot, Officer JT Tippit radios in. He is stopping a man walking, and this is not close to the scene of the assassination at all. It's across the river, because this guy fits the description that's gone out as the assassin. There's 8 witnesses to this encounter. The suspect leans on the window, and Tippit talks to him. Whatever this guy says doesn't satisfy Tippit. He gets out of the car. JT Tippit's a great officer, but in his last review, he was taken down a notch for one thing. He tended to take his eyes off a suspect when approaching him. That's exactly what Tippit did here. He takes his eyes off this guy. This man fires 3 shots. He puts Tippit down here, walks around, gives him the coup de grace on the brain, and runs off. At least 8 people witnessed this shooting and would later identify this shooter. Is this connected to the assassination? I mean, what's going on here in Dallas? With the president assassinated, and 45 minutes later, we've got an officer gunned down on a public street. 30 minutes later, a man is seen walking near the scene of the Tippit site, and he ducks into a movie theater when a police car goes by, and he creates suspicion. He enters the theater without buying a ticket. The guy who was following him, who saw him duck away from the police car, said, well, he went in there. And a phalanx of police show up. Again, this guy fits the description given out of the assassin of President Kennedy. And later he would fit the description of the man who shot Tippit. But they come upon a man who's sitting right here. And they arrest this man. And as they approach him, the man sitting there says, so they turn the lights up. There's maybe 15 people in the theater. Well, it's all over now. He punches one policeman, attempts to shoot another policeman with his gun. The policeman's able to get his thumb in the hammer to stop the gun. So whoever this guy is who didn't pay for his ticket, he's got a severe overreaction here to being arrested for not paying his 35 cents or whatever. And they bring this guy out, and there he is. They drag him out. A crowd has gathered. Everybody seems to somehow know that this man is connected to the assassination. I'm amazed at how quickly they knew that. This is an hour and 15 minutes after JFK's been shot. And it appears the suspect is in custody. He's identified as Lee Harvey Oswald, but he also has another identification in his wallet, Alec Heidel. This guy has 2 IDs. Which one are you? I'm not telling. They start interrogating this guy. He's not saying anything. And this Oswald guy appears to be trained in interrogation techniques in terms of deflecting questions away from his own guilt. They're not cracking this guy at all. The world's media ascends on the Dallas jail Friday afternoon and evening. There they are with a murder weapon trying to get through the hallway. Look at that. I mean, it's just a mob scene. This is a huge story. And a local nightclub owner called Jack Ruby is seen in the hallway right there. And Jack Ruby is a notorious blowhard, gas bag. He owns a nightclub, but he likes to be where the action is. Whenever there's a fire or police activity, Jack Ruby is there. He loves the spotlight. And this guy will talk your ear off, definitely. And there he is in the hallway. He has no business being there, but he's there. Here's the first really good photo of Oswald. And boy, he said something to the press that launched thousands of conspiracy theories. I'm a patsy. Wow, bingo. Those words still ring today. I'm a patsy. And they start looking at this guy, this semi-insignificant loser. This guy killed the president? This doesn't seem possible, seriously. And he's fueling that narrative. I worked in the book depository, but I'm just a patsy. They were just looking for somebody in the building to get. It's not me. Look at the clenched fist salute. And by the way, I'm a Marxist communist. Great. Yeah, we've got a Cold War going on. That's real nice to know that. But there he is. They continue to interrogate him through the evening Friday while I'm at the movie theater with my mom and brother and sister. And they parade him in front of lineups. Witnesses are looking at him. They parade him down for the press to look at. And this guy is defiant and very vocal, but he's not admitting to anything at all. Just before midnight, he is charged with killing Officer Tippit. And in the wee small hours of Saturday morning, he is indeed charged with assassinating JFK, and there is his mugshot booking photo. He sustained this cut at the theater and this bruise at the theater when he tried to kill a policeman. Yeah, but other than that, he has not been mistreated while in custody. And the police are showing him to the journalists. I mean, they're walking Oswald up and down the hall like this, and you're the journalist. I mean, they're walking him right through these people. Jack Ruby's right there. You know, protocol isn't being followed, but hey, how about these Dallas police? The FBI's not helping with this. The CIA's not working on this. This is all the Dallas police. They appear to have cracked the murder of JFK and Tippit within an hour and a half of this crime happening. This is what it appears to be. Good job, maybe. Who is this guy? Who is this loser? And I'm telling you, you could brand that L on this guy, but he's an interesting one. Born in New Orleans, never knew his father. Domineering mother. By the age of 10, he'd attended 6 different schools. This kid was a chronic truant with violent behavior. Dropped out of high school his sophomore year, enlisted in the Marines when he turned 17. His military career was bizarre. He got an honorable discharge despite antisocial behavior, several stints in the brig, and he had a self-inflicted gunshot wound. He was trying to get out of a duty. He shot himself, like in the leg or something. He gets out of the Marines, and 3 days before his 20th birthday, he defects to the Soviet Union from Finland. What? Nobody defects to the Soviet Union in 1962. Are you kidding me? This man has separated himself from just about everybody with this action. And he marries a Russian woman named Marina. 1960 was when he defected, I'm sorry. And he returns to the United States in May of 1962. And Oswald was very disappointed when he returned. There was no media to recover his return from his defection. Where's the media? They didn't care. Just some guy coming back. Yeah. He announced when he returned he was a Marxist, and he became involved with the Fair Play for Cuba Committee in the summer of 1963. But after a series of failed jobs, Oswald went to work at the Texas School Book Depository on October 16th, 1963. How did he get that job? Friend of a friend. How does anybody get a job? A guy he drove into work with, his sister knew somebody who knew somebody. Nothing nefarious about Oswald going to work at this building. And it's on October 16th, 1963. There is no trip to Dallas at this point. There's no motorcade planned. He goes to work there because he knew somebody. They interrogate him all weekend. He asks for an attorney, but this guy's with the American Civil Liberties Union in New York. It's the only attorney he'll take. This guy's out of town for the weekend. They can't reach him. They get really nowhere with him. And on Sunday morning, they are getting ready to transfer Oswald at 10. But the Dallas Postmaster General shows up, unexpected, to quiz Oswald about him buying a rifle, which appears to be the rifle they found in the book depository, mail order from a post office box using the alias Alec Hidell. So the transfer is delayed about an hour and 15 minutes. If this guy doesn't show up, Oswald's transferred at 10. At 11:17, Jack Ruby leaves this Western Union building. He has responded to a phone call from one of his dancers to wire her money. He waits in line here. Witnesses said he didn't appear to be in a hurry. He's got a timestamp receipt, 11:17. Ruby starts walking toward the jail ramp. He sees the commotion. He's Jack Ruby. He wants to see what's going on. Now, I think he assumes Oswald's been transferred, but apparently not. Look at this truck. They were backing this truck down here to take Oswald out. They can't get the truck down the ramp. There's a giant heating duct. It won't fit. And as they're backing this truck back up, the two uniformed cops step out in the street to direct traffic. Jack Ruby, forever the gate crasher, act like you belong, Jack Ruby, he slips down this ramp. He later said he heard somebody go, "Hey, you." But he walks down the ramp. Look at this photo. It's a little grainy. This is from footage. There is Will Fritz, the guy who's been interrogating Oswald. Lee Harvey Oswald is just around the corner from coming out. And if you stop the film right before this, there's Jack Ruby. A second before this was taken, there's no one there. And suddenly Jack Ruby bounces into the frame like that. He wasn't there a moment before. And you can see him in the film, like everybody, he starts looking. Wow, he's coming out, he's coming out. Well, we know what happened next. Jack Ruby does all his payroll for his clubs in cash. He always carries a revolver. Pulitzer Prize winning photo. Oswald comes out, he appears to be smirking. Ruby with a volcanic temper, and I mean volcanic. He was his own bouncer at his clubs, folks. He threw the drunks out. Suddenly just steps forward, fires one shot, screams, "You killed my president, you rat." And he is wrestled to the ground. Oswald is fatally wounded. There's Jack Ruby's booking photo. First thing he said was, "Somebody had to do it. You guys couldn't." But boy, our Oswald is murdered. He is dead. And suddenly, wow, what is going on here? This is pretty hinky. Who is really pulling the strings of this operation? Because the guy who probably had most of the answers, this guy is forever gone. And thus, all the mystery and possible conspiracy starts. And it never stops. In September of 1964, the Warren Commission finally concluded their lengthy investigation. They were established by LBJ to investigate this crime to the fullest. I've tried to read the Warren report. It's way thicker than this book. But they were as thorough can be. Now, they've been criticized because of their conclusion, but they came up to the conclusion that Oswald was acting alone when he shot Kennedy, and Ruby was acting alone when he shot Oswald. And instantly, the Warren Commission theory was just, people were just, "Oh, come on, cover up, big time cover up here." Yeah, very controversial. We're getting right to the halfway point here, actually. Those are basic facts that are almost, no one can dispute any fact I just gave you. I mean, this is the chronological record of what happened. Here's some questions I want you to consider, and then I'm going to take a few. When was the Dallas motorcade route announced in the newspapers, and when did Oswald see it? Were JFK and Connally struck by the same bullet? How many shots were really fired? If the headshot was fired from behind, why didn't JFK pitch forward instead of back and to the left? Because we all saw that with the headshot. It appeared to be coming from the grassy knoll. Why was Oswald the only employee to leave the book depository? Was he fleeing the crime? Oswald did something when he left the book depository that he'd never done in his life. He took a taxi cab to his rooming house. He'd never done that. And he's the only one of 16 employees to leave, and he left quickly. Why did he do that? He said that they told me there was no more work. His foreman said, "I never told him that." Why did some witnesses think shots came from the depository while others thought the grassy knoll? Why did Oswald violently resist arrest in the theater and try to shoot a policeman there? And why, oh why, did the Dallas PD allow the media to cover the Oswald transfer even after threats were received? Everybody down there underneath the captain said, let's take him out in an unmarked car at midnight. No, we need to show the media he has not been mistreated. We need to show a public perp walk to show he's not mistreated. And look what happened. The Dallas police, who did a superb job in apparently closing the murders of Kennedy and Tippit, blow it this big. I mean, how did Jack Ruby get in the basement? Was this just a total, was this luck? Was this just an amazing timing? Anybody have any questions on the basic facts of the case as stated? Please.
Right here.
Yeah, my name's Terry. I'm just curious. You described Oswald as being 5'10", and they got that description from looking at him up in the
Right.
6th floor window. How on earth could they tell he was 5'10", pale? I can understand they knew it was a male Caucasian, but it would be difficult to tell from the floor up to the 6th, or from the ground to the 6th floor. You follow my question?
That's a good question. I've looked at where Howard Brennan was standing. He was not only across the street, but he was back a bit. He had a pretty good angle. I think he estimated the height. This guy had superior long vision, Howard Brennan did. And he's the witness of the 4 who saw the guy there, who actually saw the 3rd shot and saw the rifle being drawn in. So I don't know about the height of it. Oswald was actually a little under 5'10", I think. But the basic description kind of fit Oswald. But no, that's a good question. Could he really estimate height from down at street level? Exactly, yeah. Any other questions on the facts as stated?
Right here.
My name's Mel.
Mel.
Curious about the distance that the when Tippit was shot. How far away was?
The first 3 shots were across the hood of the car. So typical hood of a car.
Okay.
And then he stepped around and put the 4th shot in his head.
Okay, how far away from the book depository was he?
Oh, you know what? I have a map of that coming up.
Some distance away.
Some distance, but not as far as you would think. Probably mile and a half, maybe.
Okay.
But they are across the river and in a different section of town.
And then Oswald was picked up closer to the depository then.
No, he was picked up close to the scene of the Tippit shooting, however, but
Okay.
not the depository.
Okay.
Let's keep in mind, he's the only employee who left work. And he actually got on a bus, but the bus got stalled in traffic. So he did something he'd never done. Cheapskate Oswald took a cab to his rooming house. And he was seen there right before 1 o'clock. He was there for 4 minutes. We're going to talk about that in the second half, but because I have a map of that. But good question. Anybody else just on the facts?
Yeah,
Yes, sir. Oh,
my name is Art. Right here.
Art.
Did you say how far away or how long of a shot that was from that window depository?
I think the 3rd headshot was like 210 feet, maybe. The other 2 shots would have been closer. Evidence now suggests that the first shot that missed, based on stuff I've been seeing recently, the shooter was literally almost shooting down on top of the limo, but the bullet ricocheted off a traffic light stanchion and then went down the road and kicked up that piece of asphalt that struck that man. I'd say the headshot, we're talking 2/3 of a football field. And that rifle had a very powerful telescopic sight. Granted, it was an awkward Mannlicher Carcano. It had a great sight. It
So,
really
so
did.
this room is 60 feet from length to width, so about 3.5 times this room would
Something
be the shot.
about like that. That sounds about right. Maybe a little shorter than that even, Dan. And I will say this, some people have said, why didn't this gunman fire as the limo was coming toward him? instead of making that turn. Well, all eyes would be on the depository then, but when he took that turn and he started going that way, the limo was traveling in a straight line from the trajectory from that window. It wasn't going this way, it wasn't going this way, it was going this way. So he didn't have to worry about leading the target if indeed the shots came from there. Total straight line. But the best shot was the third one. I find that unusual. Yeah, go ahead.
What was the estimated speed of the limo at the time?
Oh, at the time of the first shot, maybe 12 miles an hour. By the time of the third shot, it had slowed down to maybe 5. Yes. I mean, I think the driver realized with the second shot, with both JFK and Connally appeared to have been hit, he automatically just started going slower. So at the time of the third shot, barely moving, and certainly not going very fast. You know, it's a motorcade. They're just kind of cruising by. Who else? This gentleman up here.
Hold on, please, sir.
I've seen autopsy photos of Kennedy, and that final shot, you would think that his face would be gone, but his face was intact, and how do you explain that?
I have an autopsy picture coming up.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. But anybody else have any questions based on the facts go ahead.
Yeah, I recently toured the museum there.
Ooh.
And you were saying how the 2 people that were underneath that window heard the shell casings.
3.
Or 3 shells hit the floor.
3 people and 3 shell casings, yeah.
Okay. Those beams in that building are like over a foot thick, and the floor is just really thick wood.
Mhm.
I don't know how you'd hear a shell casing.
You know, if I'm
Yeah,
going back
putting
over
that
my Warren testimony, I believe only 1 of the 3 men heard the shells, but they all testified before the Warren Commission that they heard 3 rifle shots right above them. And one guy actually looked out and apparently caught a glimpse of the rifle barrel, as did Howard Brennan, who by now is totally trained on that window, that they did see the rifle actually pull out. I saw a film I had never seen, an enhanced version. It's the one taken from behind and the limo starts to turn in front of the book depository. And they enhance the window, and you see this thing that looks like a little wire start to come out of that window, and then it cuts. It's chilling. I'm sure that's the rifle barrel. But hey, were there some other shooters? I mean, we have to consider that. Anybody else have any questions here? Because we're going through this awfully quick. Obviously, I could give a week-long seminar on this. Yes, sir.
Motorcade route.
Yes.
You said it was changed on Monday, announced, published.
It's in the paper on Tuesday. Mhm.
Was there a change of the motorcade route, and why?
Not that I'm aware of. I know people have claimed that. People have said, well, why did they go by the book depository? Why didn't they just go straight through the triple underpass? They had to get on Elm to be in the right lane to get off for the Trade Mart. It was actually logistically taking that turn by the book depository was a good thing. Plus they had a bigger crowd there too. But I'm not aware of any changes to the route.
Just in the Killing Kennedy book by Bill O'Reilly, he states that a motorcade route, the motorcade itself would not go under 40 miles an hour, and any buildings that would pass, windows would be closed.
Mhm.
And in several pictures, windows were open, randomly open. So anyway, just.
I don't know, you know, I don't know how you can plan Secret Service wise for a motorcade like this through downtown. I mean, how many buildings are we talking really that you have to cover? But it's interesting that people thought that I was a security agent up there. I'm not aware of any change in the route. You know, and let's say someone did change the route. How do they know Lee Harvey Oswald worked in that building? You know, let's talk about Oswald for a second. He had a habit of reading yesterday's newspaper in the lunchroom at the depository. And he always did. So that Tuesday paper with the motorcade route, he would have read it on Wednesday. Oswald had no car and no phone. Wednesday night, he was in his rooming house alone. Thursday night, he was with his wife and daughters where she was staying because they were separated. So he learns of it Wednesday afternoon. If he is our assassin, he doesn't have much time to plan it, much less meet with someone. His landlady said he received no phone calls or no visitors Wednesday night. Ruth Payne and her husband said no one called or visited him Thursday night at our house. So, but he would have learned of it Wednesday from that newspaper. Yeah. I'm not aware of any route change, but again, who knows that Oswald's even working there, so to speak? You know, one of his handlers? Yeah, we're gonna get into that in a minute. I think you guys are seeing where this is going. Anybody else until we move on here? We can deal with a whole bunch of stuff when I'm done, because I know people are gonna be, it's just not gonna satisfy them. Let's continue, let's just solve this thing. Mark Lane wrote the first conspiracy book, Rush to Judgment. I read it. I became an avid conspiracy person. Wow. But then about 5 years ago, I read the Vince Bugliosi book, Reclaiming History, the Assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Look at this book. Now, they put out a shorter book, which is this part. It's called 4 Days in November. It merely deals with those 4 days. The rest of the book deals with everything. Bugliosi takes on every single conspiracy theory and destroys it. Absolutely destroys it. Extraordinary theories require extraordinary evidence. So far, we've seen nothing that would suggest an extraordinary conspiracy whatsoever. I was looking at some of Mark Lane's stuff, like the Tippit witnesses. He made a big deal out of one of the Tippit witnesses saying the jacket Oswald had on was not tan, it was a different color. He went on about that. He neglected to mention that 8 witnesses identified Tippit, or identified Oswald as Tippit's shooter. Hey, dude, don't you want to just like put that in, that they all identified him? You're really excited that she said the jacket was a different color. He didn't see fit to mention anywhere in the book that 8 witnesses identified Oswald as Tippit's murderer. Why would he shoot Tippit unless he was on the run? The guy was in flight, as you will see. But anyway, this is the Bible of the assassination. If you're as fascinated by this as me, read this whole thing, or at least get the abridged 4 Days in November version. A lot of conspiracy people read this book and started to cry. They knew that they had to find a new life's work. And let's just go ahead and I'll just prove all this to you very quickly. Who was this guy? Look at that picture on the left, the Omen. Would you like to be friends with me? I mean, this kid, there he is playing hooky, which was his main thing in school. A yearbook photo. He has to be the center of attention. This kid was always acting out. And I don't know, if I saw a kid like that, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I would want to babysit that kid. But you know, his mother, Oswald's mother was just crazy as a dingbat. And his father died before he was even born. So this kid was a nobody, but boy, did he want to be somebody. And if you look at the profile of an assassin through history, with maybe one exception, they are nobodies who want to be somebody. There he is in the Marines. You know, people said he couldn't do that shot because he was only middling. He wasn't a sharpshooter, he was only a marksman. Well, that makes him a better shot than anybody in this room and probably anybody in this general vicinity. Yeah, the dude could shoot. And if you've been in that museum, and who told me they had been there recently? I've looked at the pictures. That's not a difficult shot. Is it? It's not. Yeah. And it still took him 3 shots. A professional gunman, He splatters JFK's head with the first shot and it's over. But he goes to Russia and the Russians don't trust this guy at all. Are you kidding? They're like, golly. Well, here, we got a factory job for you. Leave us alone. I've had people ask me in programs, well, what about all that stuff he did in Russia? You know, all those connections he had. The most important thing he did in Russia was marry Marina Oswald, and you will see why. I bet you no one even knows about this. It's April 10th, 1963. Retired General Edwin Walker is sitting in his kitchen doing his taxes. Someone takes a shot at him with a high-powered rifle, and if it doesn't hit the window frame, he's a dead man. This is an assassination attempt. Walker is a right-wing John Bircher. He's the opposite of Oswald, that's for sure. That night, according to Marina Oswald's testimony, Oswald came home and said, I shot Walker. And indeed, after his rifle is discovered in the book depository, they match it with the Walker bullet. Bingo. Oswald's rifle took a shot at this man. Oswald has already showed us 8 months before he kills Kennedy, he is an assassin. He absolutely is. How many people even knew this? Seriously. Yeah. You have to really study this case to understand that Kennedy's not his first go around here. Not at all. If he'd have killed Walker, maybe that'd have been enough. Some people said when he shot Tippit, he was close to Walker's neighborhood and he might have been going there to finish the job. But this tells you all you need to know about Lee Harvey Oswald, because nobody in this room's ever taken a shot at anybody with a high-powered rifle, have you? I haven't. And he missed because it hit the window frame. He told Marina it'd been a perfect shot if I hadn't hit the frame. So Oswald has totally revealed himself here. He is an assassin. He fits the profile. Assassins, they're going to take down powerful people. So I didn't think anybody knew about this, but yeah, this is very integral to the assassination, very. There's that famous photo of Oswald that's supposedly doctored. That's the rifle that killed Kennedy. There's the revolver that killed Tippit. He's in his own backyard. Look how he's standing. You know, but here's the thing. Marina Oswald testified, I took the photo where we lived. This photo was found in the garage at the Payne house where she was staying. Nobody doctored this photo. Look at this photo of me getting ready to pitch a knot-hole game. Look how slanted I am. It's easy to do. Nobody doctored this photo. Nobody doctored this photo. I mean, there has been so much analysis of this photo. Well, the shadows are all wrong and everything. Marina's like, I took it. I did. It was him, my husband. Yeah, so let's stop that foolishness now, but you know I wanted to get a picture of myself in there. But look at how slanted I am. It's the exact same thing. I don't know how it happens, but every so often in a photo it does. Let's look at Oswald's movements after the shooting. It's in the book depository. He is seen on the second floor with a Coke 90 seconds after Kennedy's shot. Hey, he's supposed to be on the 6th floor, right? 90 seconds later, he's on the 2nd floor. But based on experiments done, if he's running, he can get to that 2nd floor lunchroom in 45 seconds in time to buy that Coke. He is confronted by an officer and his boss. And Oswald's boss says, he works for me. And the policeman goes, oh, okay. You know, like an employee of the depository couldn't be the assassin? Hey, maybe the guy who shot him actually worked here. No, they ran away. A secretary says to Oswald, oh, isn't it terrible what just happened to the president? Oswald, Mr. Political. This is a guy who will discuss politics all night long. Grunts and moves past her. He has no interest at all in the events unfolding outside, none. And he leaves the depository, gets in a bus that stalls, takes a taxi cab. Does he stop at his rooming house? No. He has the cab driver drive 3 blocks past his rooming house. He's taking an evasive tactic. And then Oswald walks back to the rooming house. And he enters at 4 minutes of noon. His cleaning lady or his landlady says, "My, you were in a hurry." As typical, he says nothing. He changes his jacket and gets his revolver. And he leaves and starts walking in this direction, which is where Tippit will be shot. But we can place him in his rooming house for those 4 minutes. But why didn't he just have the guy let him off in front? Why these evasive tactics? Yeah, because he's in flight. This is a man in flight from a crime. This is classic behavior. Again, the only employee to leave the book depository. And what he said about there being no work, no, the foreman did not back that up. Here, somebody wanted to really see how this laid out. There's where he kills the president. Some of the top of my slides have been a little cut off. He enters the taxi, takes about 3 or 4 minutes to get over here, drives all the way past, they let him off here, and he walks back. And he leaves at 1:01, and he has just enough time to get right to here and shoot Tippit at 1:15. I've had people tell me during this program, he didn't have enough time to get to where he shot Tippit. He needed 2 more minutes to make that walk. Give me a break. You don't set the timeline, the killer does. He got there. He had exactly enough time to get to where Tippit is shot, right there. And then he changes course. 8 people see him. He takes his jacket off and puts it under a car in a used car lot, walks along here, ducks into a shoe store when the police car drives by, and then ducks into the theater without paying. And there's where he's captured. Oswald walked a little bit less than a mile from here to here. It's probably 8/10. Well, this is probably 1.5 miles from the depository to here. And he probably walked another 3/4 of a mile here. And he's a fast walker. That's what drew Tippit's attention to him. This guy is really striding out, according to witnesses. He's walking fast. Didn't have enough time to get there. Well, he couldn't have killed Tippit. He needed at least 2 more minutes. Come on, folks. That's not the way it works. So there's kind of how it lays out. So he is in flight. This is classic. I mean, there's just no way anyone can refute this. Well, here's what was found up in the depository. Oswald purchased this rifle in March of 1963 using the alias Alec Hidell, which he had on him when he was arrested. He kept this rifle out at Ruth Payne's house, where his wife was living when they were separated. Here is the blanket. Boy, Marina Oswald said when she heard that the shooter might have worked at the book depository, she went to Ruth Payne's garage and looked at the blanket, said a quick prayer. The rifle was gone. She knew. She absolutely knew. Both the sister of the guy he rode in with that morning and the guy said he was carrying this package, which would fit a disassembled Mannlicher Carcano. You know, they said you could use a nickel or a dime to put this rifle together. You didn't even need tools, just something with a hard edge to screw it in. You know, Oswald went out Thursday night to where Marina was staying. He never had done that before. He had always gone for the weekend. This was the first time ever he asked his friend who lived nearby to drop him off there on a Thursday night. Marina was like, "What are you doing here? You know, you're not supposed to be here now." He went out there to see her and maybe get something. But anyway, this is found up in our sniper's nest. You know, he said that he had curtain rods in this thing. But why did he carry the package into the book depository? You know, no one on the bus or the cab driver didn't see him carrying the curtain rods home. You know, one of those conspiracy books, they showed, I hate the way they twist stuff. They showed a picture of his landlady pointing to the curtain rods. And this conspiracy guy said, look, she just installed them. No, she was pointing out that his room had curtain rods. Marina said, he didn't ask me about any curtain rods. There's no curtain rods, none at all. All the evidence needed to convict Oswald was found on the 6th floor of the depository. You got index fingerprints, you got palm prints, you got shells, you got his rifle. He's dropped. He did it. The magic bullet theory. Let's debunk this right now, shall we? This is nothing but hogwash. Here is the incorrect representation. This assumes that Connally is sitting directly in front of Kennedy and is at the same height. There's only one problem with that. He's not. He is inside of Kennedy on a jump seat. He is almost 12 inches to the inside of Kennedy. He is almost 7 inches lower, maybe 8. And when you take that into account and you use the correct trajectory, which this doesn't, it lines up perfectly. And it did just what a full metal jacket bullet should do. The first hard bone it hit was Connally's wrist. Kennedy was all soft tissue. Magic bullet. The thing stopped in midair and then turned right. No, this is just ridiculous stuff, folks. This is wrong. This is correct. I've got other photos that show how much lower Connally is than him. He's definitely inside of him. And let's talk about that headshot when he went like this from the side. Very simple explanation. Our president, JFK, has Addison's disease. He wears a restrictive brace. This brace is designed to hold him upright. You know, I try to think, if he's not wearing the brace, the shot in the back and through the neck, that puts him on the floor of that limo. And is that a survivable wound? Because we've got no headshot if he does go forward. But the brace did exactly what it was supposed to do. And when that shot hits him from back here, he slightly goes forward and then the brace sends him that way. That's all it is. It's nothing more than that. Murder cases are usually what they seem. The simplest explanation is always preferred. Extraordinary theories require extraordinary evidence. And there's none here. Did anyone ever take a look at the magic bullet and the Kennedy realize how simple these explanations were? There's an autopsy photo. Now they have put his scalp back up. He has an entry wound back here. The exit wound is here, though certainly it did not come out of his face. That bullet hit cranial bones, some of the hardest bones you'd ever feel, and it disintegrated. But fragments of those bullets, of that fatal bullet, did match the manuclear carcano, as did the so-called pristine bullet. And that bullet wasn't pristine. The bottom of that bullet was completely out of round, completely deformed. But the only hard thing it hit was Connally's wrist. Of course it's going to be almost pristine, but it wasn't pristine, you know. But no, he was shot twice from the back, and he has this part of his head, as you saw on that one photo, was gone. If it's from the grassy knoll, that's the entrance wound. But as we know, the exit wound's always going to be bigger. Yeah. Circumstantial evidence against Oswald. He totally broke his custom. He rode with Wesley Frazier on Thursday night instead of Friday. Never done that before. Frazier and his sister saw him put a package into Frazier's car Friday morning, which he said were curtain rods. That's a lie. Frazier saw him carry him into the book depository, and normally Oswald would walk with Wesley Frazier. On this morning, he did not. And guess what else? For the first time since they've been riding together, Oswald did not pack his lunch. I always love these insignificant things killers do right before the murder that they've never done before. Oswald was seen on the depository 6th floor 15 minutes before JFK was shot. His clipboard was found there. He had 3 unfilled orders of books to fill. He had plenty of time to fill that order. He did not. This indicates he was busy with something else. He's the only employee of 16 to leave the building after the assassination. He took a cab to his rooming house, got his revolver, began walking toward where Tippit was shot. They matched one of the bullets in Tippit and all 4 shells to Oswald's revolver. The other bullets were a little too deformed to match them ballistically, but one did and all 4 shells did. Oswald's revolver had every bullet a little defect when it went through the barreling. After hearing of the assassination, his wife checked the garage where he kept the rifle and found it missing. Boy. Here's some physical evidence. He bought that rifle in March of '63, used an alias. They proved it not only killed JFK, it was the same rifle that took the shot at Walker. This stuff is indisputable, folks. This is not any cover-up stuff. This is basic evidence. At least 4 witnesses saw a man fitting Oswald's description in the 6th floor window with a rifle. 3 men in the 5th floor heard 3 shots from right above them, and one of them heard the shells hit the floor. Palm print, right index finger, found on a box in the sniper's nest. I've got 10 there, 8 to 10 witnesses independently of each other identified Oswald as the man who shot Officer JT Tippit. And why would he do that if he had done nothing? Ballistics matched the bullet and shells from Tippit's scene. Paraffin tests on Oswald's hands after his capture indicated he had recently fired a revolver. I could go on and on. These are just the highlights. You know, Ruby and Oswald were supposed to be hired killers. I thought paid assassins lived a glamorous lifestyle. Oswald's room is like a closet with curtain rods. I mean, seriously, look at this thing. Ruby lives in a squalid apartment. These guys are paid assassins? Let's talk Jack Ruby for a minute. Well, no one would hire either of these men to do anything like this. Oswald is a loose cannon. The Russians didn't even want to touch him. Ruby is a gas bag. This guy couldn't keep a secret for 5 seconds if you told him something. This guy is just a vociferous gas bag. But let's look at Jack Ruby for a minute because I am fascinated by the murder of Oswald. Evidence Jack Ruby acted alone. After the shooting on Friday, Ruby was distraught. All his friends, everyone he spoke to that weekend, this man was crying. He was sobbing. How could this happen in my city? How could our president be murdered? And he said to everyone, oh my God, Jackie Kennedy is going to have to come back for that weasel's trial. I don't want her to have to come back for his trial. At least 15 witnesses said that Ruby said that to him. At the original transfer time of 10 a.m., this is the published transfer time for the media. Ruby is sitting in his apartment in his underwear. He receives 2 calls that morning, one from his cleaning lady and one from the stripper. If the stripper doesn't ask him to wire money, Ruby never goes down to Western Union, which is on the same block as the Dallas jail. He doesn't. Ruby's roommate says he gets the call from the stripper, he leisurely showers, leisurely shaves, and he takes his beloved dog Sheba with him. Ruby had no children. He called Sheba his wife. Everyone that knew Ruby said, take this to the bank. If he knows he's going to kill Oswald, he never takes that dog with him. Sheba was in that car for 3 hours before somebody found her. No way would he take the dog. And pet owners, that's as good a evidence as you need right there. Oh, I'm going to shoot this guy, but I'll take Sheba. Oh, come on. That's crazy. You know, no other calls were received at Ruby's house that morning. If Ruby is in on something, how do they notify him that the transfer's been delayed? Will they send him a text, an Instagram, Facebook Messenger? No, they have one way to do it, landline. Ruby got 2 calls and 2 calls only from the cleaning lady who said he sounded very strange, but it was Jack Ruby, and from the stripper. 4 minutes before he shoots Oswald, Ruby is standing in line at the Western Union to wire money to a stripper. No hired killer would be in that position right before the shooting. No, doesn't happen. They're getting ready to transfer Oswald right at 11:15. Will Fritz says, hey, Lee, you got that dingy t-shirt on. Do you want to put something on because you're going to be on TV? And Oswald said, can you get my black sweater? This 6-minute delay to put a sweater on Oswald allows Ruby to get into position. If Oswald said, nah, I'll go out like this, he is not shot. Ruby is in line at the Western Union. It doesn't even happen. I like what he told the police. If I had planned this, I couldn't have had my timing any better. It was 1 chance in a million. The timing of Ruby getting down that basement, this could never happen again in a million years like this. All the delays transferring Oswald, the sweater thing, a simple thing like that, a 6-minute delay. You know, the people at Western Union said Ruby waited patiently in line. Just, you know, he wasn't like, come on, I got to send this. No. And he just strolls down and he sees the crowd and he slips right down past that truck. If you ever see the film where that picture of him was, it's chilling, folks. There's no one there, and all of a sudden Ruby pops in and everybody goes like this. And Oswald comes around and he smirks. And the explosion in Ruby's brain. This guy is an impulsive volcano of a man. Horrible temper. I can't believe how fortune favored Jack Ruby to make this killing. And it's done a great disservice to all of us because Oswald would have had a trial and maybe would have sorted this out. But I really think we already have. But I'm going to tell you the real reason why this crime happened. Evidence against a conspiracy. Since October 16th, Oswald spent every weekend at the Payne house with his wife. He never missed a day of work. During the week when he was at his rooming house for those 6 weeks, according to his landlady, he made no phone calls, received no visitors, never went out. Where's he having these meetings with all these people who decided, yeah, let's get Lee Oswald to do this. He's perfect. Oswald learned that the motorcade would go past the book depository on Wednesday, November 20th. This does not give him much time. He did not drive, did not have a phone. We know he's home alone that Wednesday evening. On Thursday, he goes out to where Marina is in the suburbs. He met no one and made no phone calls. That morning, Oswald has only $183. He leaves $170 and his wedding ring in a cup on Marina's dresser. He left almost all his money in his wedding ring. This guy's on a mission. He just proved it right there. Yeah. The notorious cheapskate left all his money in his wedding ring. He's planning something big. There is not one shred of evidence that the CIA, Castro, the Mafia, LBJ, or any other group murdered JFK. Not one. And I'm going to invite people to come up with them when I'm done. You go ahead and shoot it up there and we'll see what we can do with it. Any such plan would have been reckless, irrational, and dangerous, hence unlikely to succeed and really unbelievable. And who the heck would hire these two guys? These two loser loners. You can't trust Oswald and you can't trust Ruby to be quiet. It's just absurd. Is it even possible that a complex conspiracy to murder a president could be hatched within 2 to 3 days? You know, someone would have had to call Oswald Wednesday night. Did you see the motorcade route? Did you see that? Are you ready for Friday? No, no one called him. He met with no one. No phone, no car, no way to get around except buses. Take this one to the bank. Ruth Payne and her husband said that Thursday night, 56 years ago, right now, on the 21st, Oswald made 3 separate pleas and entreaties for Marina to come back to him with the 2 daughters and live together as a family. And here's what Marina said. I called your rooming house this week and asked for Lee Harvey Oswald. There was no such person, but there was an O.H. Lee. Why are you living under an assumed name? Are you up to your foolishness again? I'm not moving back with you. Oswald kept trying. Meanwhile, Marina and the Paynes are talking about Kennedy's visit. Normally Oswald, Mr. Political guy, he would love to talk about that. He had no interest in talking about Kennedy's visit whatsoever. Marina refuses him. And next morning he wakes up, puts his money and his wedding ring in the cup. Oswald went to the Payne's house Thursday night to get his wife or his rifle. I'm hoping it's my wife, but if it's not, I'm getting the rifle. This is as clear as a bell. And if Marina says, I will go back with you, we'll be a family, we'll look at apartments this weekend, we're not even here talking about this. This is such a simple crime by an assassin who's been a failure his whole life and been rejected. So, Friday morning, after suffering the final rejection in his lifetime of failure, Lee Harvey Oswald, a nobody who forever wanted to be somebody, acted alone. He took his rifle to work. He shot John F. Kennedy from his sniper's perch. Case closed. Folks, if you're harboring any ideas of conspiracy, it's over. Get a new hobby. I really like what some of the conspiracy people said after reading Bugliosi's book. Oh God, wow, he's right. What have I been doing with my life for 30 years? Yeah. Have you ever seen Vince Bugliosi? I know he died. He prosecuted the Manson. This man is brilliant. I loved his OJ book, 5 Reasons Why O.J. Simpson Was Acquitted. The guy is a brilliant guy. The print's kind of small in this book. The level of detail in this book is astonishing. Absolutely astonishing. Every single conspiracy theory is addressed and destroyed by him. I mean, seriously. Let me quick grab the table of contents. History of the conspiracy movement, Mark Lane, mysterious and suspicious deaths. Boy, I was really into all those people that died. Well, guess what? Most of them were old and had health problems. Dorothy Kilgallen, supposedly somebody snuck into her apartment and gave her a fatal barbiturate overdose and alcohol while her husband and her son are right there. The second Oswald, alteration of the president's body, Ruby and the mob, organized crime, CIA, FBI, KGB, right wing, LBJ, Cuba, anti-Castro exiles, CIA, Jim Garrison, conclusion of no conspiracy. Folks, trust me, I've read this. It's brilliant. It's absolutely stunningly brilliant. This was a very simple case. I want you to think tonight, if Marina Oswald had relented that night, history is different. It's as simple as that. Murder cases are usually what they seem. They're about passion or gain. This case is about being an assassin. I don't think Oswald had anything against Kennedy. Oswald's a left wing, Kennedy's a reasonably moderate Democrat. He's just the most important man in the world, that's all. And his motorcade's going right below the window where I work. What a crazy coincidence that is. But anyway, I would take it to the bank. Marina Oswald was the key to the whole thing. That is all I have. But again, I want to remind everybody, if you harbor conspiracy theories, it's over. And I mean it. If I see any of you on Facebook trying to promote it, and let me qualify everything I've said, and I know we're getting ready to finish. I used to be an avid conspiracy guy for this. I ate it up. There's just one problem. There's no evidence whatsoever.
Take a few questions.
Thank you. I'll take questions.
Who's got a question or comment? Or,
It's over.
Or a conspiracy theory?
Oh, Rob Schweitzer. Question on the, one of the things we often hear is the grassy knoll sounds there,
Yeah.
folks. After a shot,
Mhm.
folks moved away and someone mysterious, a car or what have you.
Yep.
Could you address that briefly?
The key witnesses on that railroad bridge, they saw some interesting car activity, which was apparently workmen. No one saw any puffs of smoke or any shots come from the grassy knoll. There's really no indication that any other shots were fired other than the 3 from the 6th floor window at all. If there's some evidence of another shot being fired, I'd like to see it. But no one has stepped forward with anything other than conjecture and innuendo, really. Go ahead. Hmm. 200, 220 on the 3rd shot. Probably more like half a football field from the next shot. And seriously, folks, the very first shot, Oswald literally was right down on it, and he missed because apparently it hit a light stanchion or something.
Question right here.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I've read a couple of books where the mob loves to take credit for this. What's their motive?
Thank you. What's their motive? Bugliosi spends about the mob. Bugliosi spends 87 pages on that in here, and it's small print. He knocks everyone down. You're going to have to take my word for it, but if you're serious enough and you're not worried about getting a hernia by carrying this book around, this is, folks, this is the Bible of the Kennedy assassination now. And even your major conspiracy people will say that.
Question right here.
Who else?
Just a couple comments. A couple things really do bear out what you say. First of all, if you ever go up to Detroit at the Ford Center up there at the museum, that's where the Kennedy car is.
Right.
And you see the jump seats and everything, the way that they're situated, which perfectly gives you the alignment you're seeking.
Absolutely.
Another thing is, how can you keep a conspiracy like this quiet for 60 years, you know? Because you'd be solving the crime of the century. One question I do have, though, is do you agree that this investigation was botched by the Dallas police? And also, was the autopsy, do you question that with missing brain and different things like that? So there were some errors made, I feel.
You know, even when you know the answer to a case, to a crime, when you know the solution, there's going to be loose ends. Once you know that Oswald is guilty, and we know this, acting alone, you don't really need to address every single thing. Conspiracy people will often pick on one thing. There's an entire conspiracy built out of somebody who signed a hotel register in North Dakota, Lee Harvey Oswald, on November 21st. Whole books have been about that. Well, who was this guy who signed that name way far away? How could Oswald be in North Dakota? Because he wasn't. Yeah. You know, the Secret Service wanted Kennedy to put the bubble top on. He refused. And at one point when they were in the really tight confines of the buildings, both Secret Service agents got on the running boards. Kennedy asked them to get off as they moved out of the more congested areas. You know, there's boy, that one theory blows my mind. There's so many people that believe it. Oswald fires the first 2 shots, and the guy in the trail car, the Secret Service agent with the AR-47, there was a picture of him waving it in the air, that he somehow, in his 360-degree whirl, stood up and fired a fatal headshot at Kennedy accidentally. People believe that.
JT, when Kennedy got to the hospital that day, did anything bad happen in that half hour or so? Were there any conspiracies about that?
You mean at Parkland?
Yes.
Not that I'm aware of. They put him in the first trauma room, and he's a dead man with a heart that's slightly beating. I mean, he doesn't have any, he doesn't have anything here. Anybody else would have been immediately dead on arrival. I'm not aware of anything at Parkland, though I know some doctor, some resident surgeon at Parkland's written a book. There's 1,000 books about conspiracies on this. And you know what it really comes down to, Dan? People can't believe that a weasel, a loser, nobody weasel like Oswald could have taken down the most powerful man in the government.
Here's a question for you.
I've heard people talking about how they think that, because Kennedy gave a speech not long before this happened about taking out the Federal Reserve and secret societies and stuff like that, if you could address that.
Was that day? He gave a speech that morning in not in Dallas, but one of the other cities. Was this something earlier? No comment. Not related. I mean, I don't know if Oswald was concerned about the Federal Reserve, since he fired the shots. So,
Here's another one.
Okay.
I like to keep an open mind. Fascinating program. I like to keep an open mind, both sides. The mob connection, this is not from me. This is from the Killing Kennedy book, that Ted Kennedy was very adamant about bringing down mob connections.
Well, Bobby was.
Bobby
Kennedy,
excuse Bobby Kennedy. So it's the whole
Yeah.
Kennedy family that's where I think they bring in the mob connection, is that Bobby was trying to bring everybody down. So they think.
Why would the mob hire Lee Harvey Oswald to shoot the president?
Well, no, they didn't hire him. Some people say that the mob actually made the hit on Kennedy, and that's what they're trying to say is
No evidence.
no. But that's where the mob comes in, I think.
But seriously, no evidence. Yeah.
Sir, this gentleman has a question right here.
In the Zapruder film, it did show Kennedy falling back like that, and that's why they thought there was a shot.
He kind of
from the
went
grassy
forward
knoll.
slightly and went to the side. That was totally his back brace doing that.
I was just wondering if that pulled it.
That's absolutely it. If he's not wearing the back brace, as I said, the first wound puts him on the floor of the limo. He pitches forward, and you wonder, even though it came out his neck, could that have been a survivable wound? Could he have survived that if he's on the floor of the limo? But the brace did its job. The brace kept him upright for the headshot. And then as he started to go forward, the brace made him go like this, because that's what the brace was designed for. It's amazing that none of these conspiracy people have ever looked at that.
Question right here.
Yeah.
Just a statement. If he hadn't have shot Officer Tippit or been apprehended at the theater, he would have been caught within a day anyway, because there was too much evidence there, the fingerprints, the rifle, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
It would have been a day before he was arrested anyway.
Well, even with solved cases, there's mysteries. What was he doing when he left his rooming house? What was his plan? He had just enough money, he had $13 to buy a ticket to Mexico. And he could have got to a bus station and bought a ticket to Mexico. Was he walking over to Walker's house to finish the job on Edwin Walker? Because when Tippit stopped him, he was a half mile from Walker's house and walking in that direction. So there's a mystery. What the heck was he doing? Did he have a plan, or was he just wandering? But I think he would have been apprehended. Yeah, somebody asked me if the investigation was botched. No, the transfer of Oswald was botched. The investigation was brilliant. They dropped this guy within 90 minutes for 2 murders. And then they blew it all on Sunday morning. Who else?
Let's thank our guest tonight, who's given us
Is
a
that
great
it?
lecture. Thank you so much. Okay, so I just have to ask you, is there anybody who still believes in the conspiracy other than me? Okay, and I kind of feel like Christmas is kind of come and gone now. I've been living this for, gosh, how many years? But I'll have to ask you to move on to maybe Area 51 next year, or something like that, something important, an important subject.
If I may say really quickly, Dan, people love government conspiracies. I have a friend who I love dearly, I have a friend who I love dearly who has tried to convince me that 9/11 was our own government. There were no terrorists. The planes were being flown by drones. A missile hit the Pentagon. Governments aren't that smart and people aren't that loyal. It's as simple as that. They couldn't even hold Watergate together, a simple burglary.
A couple other things real quick before we go. I want to thank Don Hurt again for singing the national anthem for us. He was great. The voice of Empower You. Our 18th semester is almost to an end. I want to thank our team, Jay Grunke, who's our producer. Let's thank him. Let's thank Betty Overstreet, who's our executive director. Let's thank our treasurer, Bill Roll, back there. Thank him. We had, JT, we had more people online tonight than we've ever had before.
How many?
Over 30.
Wow.
So we are glad. Thank you, everybody online, for joining us. And I just want to wish you all a great, just wonderful Thanksgiving holiday next Thursday. I hope you're with your families and just eating lots of turkey and pie and having fun. So glad you could come tonight. Please take a look at one of JT's books in the back on your way out.
If I may, real quick, Dan. Summer's almost gone.
It is gone.
I am selling the hardcover version of the book about the Bricker murders and the Cincinnati Strangler for $15 signed. I've never offered it this low. I have a little inventory to get rid of. I'll be back here.
A great Christmas gift. And other than that,
Summer's
hope to see you
gone.
for our Christmas event, December 17th. Thank you, everybody.